You've probably heard it before. Someone says, trading is all luck. Right place, right time. You just happened to be there when price moved. And maybe for a moment, you believed it too. Because when you first start, it feels random. One day you win, the next day you lose. Same button, same screen, different outcome. So your mind reaches for the easiest explanation. Luck, but sit with that idea for a second. Really sit with it. If this game was luck, truly luck, then no one would survive it long term. Casinos don't survive on luck. Insurance companies don't survive on luck. Anything built on chance alone eventually collapses. Yet you keep seeing the same quiet traders show up year after year, still here, still steady, still breathing. That alone should tell you something. Luck is what people call discipline when they don't want to face responsibility. You've watched someone take one trade clean and calm, and it works. And you think, man, they got lucky. What you didn't see were the trades they didn't take, the hours they sat on their hands, the days they walked away flat, the moments they wanted to click and didn't. Luck didn't stop their hand. A trait did. Every result you get is built long before you ever press a button. It's built in the morning when you wake up and decide whether today matters. It's built in how you handle boredom. It's built in whether you respect your limits when nothing exciting is happening. Most traders don't lose money because they're wrong. They lose money because they're careless when nothing is happening and reckless when something finally does. Waiting for luck keeps you passive. It keeps you hoping instead of preparing. And hope is dangerous in this business. Hope whispers, maybe this time will be different. While discipline says, I don't need this trade. You don't get lucky accounts. You get lucky days. And lucky days don't change lives. Repeated behavior does. Once you let go of the idea that success is random, something uncomfortable happens. You realize every mistake was yours. Every blown day started with a choice. Every overtrade began with a feeling you didn't manage. That truth can sting, but it's also freeing. Because if it's not luck, then it's learnable. And if it's learnable, then you're not stuck. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It doesn't reward speed. It doesn't reward opinions. It rewards one thing consistently. The ability to do the same right thing over and over, especially when you don't feel like it. And that's where the real fight begins. Because once you stop blaming luck, you run into yourself. You know this war. You felt it in your chest. The trade is setting up. Your heart rate changes. Fear creeps in. What if it fails? You hesitate. You miss it. Then price moves without you, and fear flips into anger. Now you chase. You jump late. And now greed takes over. Maybe it keeps going. It doesn't. Loss. Or the opposite. You're in profit. Green numbers feel good. Too good. You start counting money that isn't yours yet. You hold too long, or you cut too early because you're scared to lose what you see. Either way, emotion hijacks the wheel. This isn't weakness. It's human. Your brain is wired to protect you from pain and chase pleasure. The market knows that. And it uses it against you every single day. Fear of losing, fear of missing out, greed for more, hope that a bad trade will fix itself, impatience when nothing is happening, revenge when you feel wronged by the screen. These aren't random feelings. They come in patterns. Same times, same triggers, same results. The problem isn't that you feel them. The problem is that you act while they're loud. Most traders don't even realize what state they're in until after damage is done. You don't say, I'm trading from anger now. You just click. Later you look back and think, why did I do that? The profitable trader learns to catch the feeling before the action, not by fighting emotion, but by recognizing it. You notice your breathing change. You notice the urge to rush. You notice the need to be right. That awareness buys you a moment, and that moment is everything. In that pause, you either follow a rule or you follow a feeling. One leads to survival, the other leads to regret. Calm doesn't come from confidence, it comes from structure. When you know exactly what you're allowed to do and what you're not, emotion has less room to speak. Rules are not there to limit you, they're there to protect you from yourself on your worst days. Once that inner noise starts to quiet, you finally have room to build something solid. And that's where most people skip ahead. They want results before they have a roadmap. A real plan isn't complicated. In fact, complexity is usually a hiding place. A solid plan answers a few simple questions clearly. When do you trade? Why you trade? When you don't trade? How much you're allowed to lose? When you stop for the day? These are not suggestions. They're boundaries. Your plan should be written like instructions you'd give to someone else, simple enough that there's no confusion when pressure is high. If you have to think hard in the moment, the plan is too vague. You don't need 10 rules. You need a few non-negotiables. Things you do every day, even when you're tired, especially when you're tired. The market doesn't care how you feel. Your plan shouldn't either. You also need to know your rhythm. Not every hour is for you. Not every day deserves your attention. Most damage is done when you trade out of sync with yourself. Boredom is one of the most expensive emotions in trading. So is overconfidence after a win. Your roadmap should include rest. It should include days where the best decision is to do nothing. Walking away is not weakness, it's maturity. When you trust your plan, decisions get quieter. You stop asking, should I? And start asking, does this fit? That shift alone saves accounts. With structure in place, something else changes. You stop obsessing over making money and you start respecting money. Protecting capital isn't sexy. It doesn't feel exciting, but it's the foundation of everything. You cannot grow what you don't protect. Every dollar in your account is a soldier. You don't send all your soldiers into one battle. You don't fight when you're wounded. You don't ignore damage and hope it heals. You manage exposure so you can stay in the game. Risk rules are not pessimism. They're respect. Respect for uncertainty. Respect for the fact that you don't control outcomes, only behavior. You need limits that stop you when emotion won't. Daily loss limits, weekly limits, a point where you shut it down and live to fight another day. These aren't there because you're weak. They're there because you're human. Partial profits, buffers, scaling back after wins or losses. These are ways of smoothing your emotional curve. Big swings feel good until they don't. Stability builds confidence quietly. When you treat money with care, it responds differently. You stop trying to force it. You stop gambling. You start thinking long term. And when protection is in place, losses stop being the enemy. They become the teacher. Every trader loses. That never changes. What changes is how you carry the loss. Most people wear it like a wound. They replay it. They punish themselves. Or they ignore it and repeat it. A strong trader reviews without emotion. Was this loss within my rules or outside them? If it followed the plan, it's a good loss. If it didn't, that's information, not shame. Information, you don't need to suffer to learn. You need honesty. Simple review rituals. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What do I adjust tomorrow? Pain only becomes strength when you process it. Otherwise, it just becomes baggage. Over time, you build something powerful. You become harder to shake. Losses don't define your day. Wins don't inflate your ego. You stay even. That's anti-fragility. Not breaking when things go wrong, growing stronger because you handled them well. And then comes the longest test of all. Time. The market will test your patience more than your skill. Flat periods, slow growth, weeks where nothing seems to work. This is where most people quit. Not because they failed, but because they got bored of doing the same right thing without applause. Consistency compounds quietly, no fireworks, just steady progress, showing up, following rules, protecting energy, living life outside the screen. You don't build this for months. You build it for years. Quiet reps, same habits, same discipline, until one day you realize you've changed. You're calmer, less reactive, more selective. You don't need to trade, you choose to. And that choice is the trait. The one trait all profitable traders share isn't luck. It isn't intelligence. It isn't courage. It's self-control. The ability to pause, to wait, to follow rules when emotion begs you not to protect what you've built, to stay the same person on good days and bad. That trait isn't born. It's trained. And every day you show up and choose discipline over impulse, you're becoming the trader you've been chasing. Not loud, not flashy, just reliable. And that's how real success is built. And here's the part most people don't talk about because it doesn't sound impressive. There will be long stretches where nothing feels like it's working, not because you're failing, but because growth is quiet. You'll follow your rules and still end the week flat. You'll do everything right and still feel frustrated. That's where the trait shows itself the clearest. In those moments, the old version of you would start tinkering, changing rules, forcing trades, looking for something new, anything to feel progress. But the trader you're becoming understands something deeper. Progress doesn't always show up as profit. Sometimes it shows up as restraint. Sometimes it shows up as not breaking. You start to value boring days, clean days, days where you protected capital and protected your mind. You realize excitement is expensive. Calm is profitable. Your confidence stops coming from winning. It comes from trust. Trust that you'll show up the same way tomorrow. Trust that one bad day won't turn into a bad week. Trust that you don't need to prove anything to the screen. And that changes how you live too. You sleep better. You're not glued to every tick. You don't carry the market's mood into your relationships. Trading becomes part of your life, not the thing controlling it. That's legacy level discipline, not chasing fast money. Building a version of yourself that can handle responsibility over time. You stop asking, how much can I make today? And start asking, how long can I stay consistent? That question changes everything because the market will always be there. Opportunities will come and go. But your edge isn't in the setup. It's in you showing up clear-headed, patient, and prepared day after day. One trade doesn't define you. One loss doesn't break you. One win doesn't make you. What defines you is how you behave when no one is watching, when it's just you and the screen, when you're tired, when you're tempted, when you're bored. That's where the trait lives. Self-control isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just quietly compounds while everyone else burns out. And one day you look back and realize you didn't conquer the market. You mastered yourself. And that's when trading finally starts working the way it was always meant to. And even then, it doesn't feel like some dramatic finish line. There's no moment where a bell rings and you suddenly feel done. What happens instead is quieter. You start noticing what no longer moves you. A loss doesn't punch you in the gut the way it used to. A win doesn't send you into fantasy mode. You stay grounded, balanced, present. That's when you realize the work has been happening beneath the surface the whole time. You used to wake up thinking about how much you needed to make. Now you wake up thinking about how well you need to execute. That shift alone separates you from the crowd because most people are still chasing outcomes. You're focused on behavior, and behavior is the only thing you actually control. There will still be hard days. Don't misunderstand that. Discipline doesn't remove pain. It gives pain a purpose. It turns frustration into feedback instead of fuel for destruction. You stop asking the market to validate you. You stop needing it to reward you today. You become patient enough to let time do the heavy lifting. This is where consistency starts to compound in ways you can't see week to week. Small gains, small drawdowns, tight control. Over months, then years, that smooth curve begins to separate you from the ones who swing wildly and burn out. You don't feel rushed anymore. You don't feel behind. You understand that this is a craft, and crafts reward those who respect the process. You also begin to protect your energy. You don't sit there all day staring at the screen just to feel busy. You step away when your job is done. You keep your mind sharp. You live, because a tired mind makes desperate decisions, and desperation has no place here. You start to understand something most people never do. The market is not the hard part. The hard part is showing up every day as the same person. Calm when it's boring. Disciplined when it's tempting. Humble when it's going well. Honest when it's not. That takes strength. Real strength isn't clicking fast. It isn't catching big moves. It's restraint. It's walking away. It's sticking to your limits even when you feel like breaking them would finally give you relief. That's the trait again. The same one showing up in different forms. Self-control when you want excitement. Self-control when you want revenge. Self-control when you want to prove something. And the more you practice it, the less effort it takes. What once felt like discipline becomes identity. You're no longer trying to be consistent. You just are. And when that happens, trading stops feeling like a battle you have to win every day. It becomes a routine you respect, a responsibility you handle with care. You stop measuring success by single days. You measure it by how well you honored your rules over time. You trust the math of consistency. You trust the version of yourself you've built. That's when confidence becomes quiet. Not loud, not fragile, just steady. You don't need to rush the process. You don't need to force growth. You just need to keep showing up, protecting what you have, and doing the same right things again and again. Because in the end, profitable traders aren't special. They're simply the ones who stayed disciplined long enough for discipline to pay them back. And now you know exactly what that takes. And the strange thing is, once you reach that place, you almost forget how chaotic it used to feel. You remember the anxiety, but it no longer lives in your body. You remember the rush, but you don't crave it anymore. You've outgrown the need for drama. You've outgrown the urge to force something just to feel alive. What replaces it is something much stronger. Trust. You trust yourself to stop when you should. You trust yourself to wait when there's nothing to do. You trust yourself to follow the plan even on days when your emotions are loud. That trust is earned slowly, repeatedly, one decision at a time. Most people never get here because they're always looking for something outside themselves. A better tool, a faster method, a secret. But the truth is, the edge was never external. It was always internal. You don't win because you're smarter than everyone else. You win because you're more consistent with your behavior than most people are willing to be. And consistency isn't exciting. It's repetitive. It's quiet. It's sometimes lonely, but it works. You begin to see trading for what it really is. Not a way to escape your life, but a mirror that shows you who you are under pressure. Impulsive or patient, reactive or composed, honest or self-deceiving. And instead of fighting that mirror, you start using it. Every day becomes practice, not just of a strategy, but of character. You practice restraint. You practice patience. You practice respect for risk. You practice walking away whole. That's why this journey changes people beyond trading. The skills you build here don't stay on the screen. They show up in how you handle stress, how you make decisions, how you delay gratification, how you stay calm when others panic. You become someone who doesn't need to react to everything. And that's power. Real power is not forcing outcomes. It's being steady enough to let outcomes come to you over time. There will always be people chasing fast results. Always people gambling, hoping, over leveraging, burning bright, and disappearing. You don't need to compete with them. You're on a different path now, a longer path, a quieter one, a path built on respect for process and respect for yourself. And one day, without fireworks, without noise, you'll realize something important. You didn't just become a profitable trader. You became someone who can be trusted with responsibility, with risk, with growth, someone who doesn't panic, someone who doesn't rush, someone who does the right thing even when it's uncomfortable. That's the real reward. The money is just a byproduct of the person you've become. And as long as you keep choosing self-control over impulse, discipline over emotion, patience over urgency, you'll keep moving forward. Not fast, but far. And far is what lasts. And the farther you go, the more you understand why so few people ever arrive. It's not because the path is hidden. It's not because the rules are secret. It's because the path demands something most people avoid their entire lives: responsibility for their own behavior. Trading strips away excuses. You can't blame a boss. You can't blame a system. You can't blame timing forever. At some point, the finger always comes back to you. And most people don't want that level of honesty. They'd rather believe the market is unfair than admit they were undisciplined. But you didn't come this far to lie to yourself. You've seen what happens when you ignore rules. You've felt the cost of impatience. You've watched how one emotional decision can undo weeks of good behavior. Those lessons weren't wasted. They were shaping you, even when it didn't feel like it. Now you move differently. You don't rush to recover losses. You don't try to impress the screen. You don't trade to feel something. You trade when it makes sense, and you stop when it doesn't. That restraint becomes your signature. You start to respect time. You stop trying to compress years of growth into months. You understand that real compounding doesn't just happen in money. It happens in mindset, in habits, in identity. You no longer ask, am I good enough? You ask, did I execute well today? That's a grounded question, an honest one that keeps you improving without tearing yourself down. And when setbacks come, because they always do, you don't collapse. You adjust, you slow down, you recommit to basics. You trust the process you've already tested instead of abandoning it under pressure. That's maturity. This is what separates the ones who last from the ones who burn out with stories about what almost worked. You don't almost do anything anymore. You either follow your rules or you don't trade. You either protect capital or you step aside. You either stay composed or you walk away. No drama, no self-betrayal, and that discipline practiced day after day begins to feel natural, not forced, not heavy, just normal. That's when you realize something subtle but powerful. You're no longer trying to become a profitable trader. You already are one, because your behavior finally matches the outcome you want. And as long as you keep honoring that behavior, the results will take care of themselves. Not overnight, not every day, but over time. And time is on your side now because you're not gambling anymore. You're building, and builders don't rush. They measure, they protect the foundation, they respect the work. You've learned a trait that matters most, and you're practicing it every time you choose patience over impulse. That's how this story keeps moving forward. And the deeper you settle into this way of operating, the more obvious something becomes. You were never meant to fight the market every day. Most people treat trading like a confrontation, like something to conquer. They wake up tense. They sit down, already braced for impact. Every tick feels personal. Every loss feels like an insult. That mindset drains you before you even begin. But when self-control becomes your core trait, the relationship changes. You stop wrestling, you start observing, you listen more than you act. You respond instead of react. And that alone removes so much unnecessary pressure. You're no longer trying to extract something from the market. You're allowing yourself to participate only when conditions align with your rules and your state of mind. That's calm power. You realize that not trading is often the most professional decision you can make. Sitting out is not wasted time. It's discipline in motion. It's you saying, I don't need action to feel productive. That's rare. And because it's rare, it's rewarded. You begin to understand that the market isn't a place to prove worth. It's a place to express control over size, over frequency, over emotion, over ego. The days you don't trade, but follow your rules perfectly, matter just as much as the days you make money, maybe more, because they reinforce identity. They tell your nervous system, I'm safe even when I do nothing. That safety changes everything. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop rushing clarity. You stop needing constant confirmation that you're on the right path. You already know you are because your behavior is stable. And stability is the soil where consistency grows. Over time, you notice that your decisions feel lighter, less dramatic, less urgent. You're not constantly second guessing yourself because you already decided in advance how you would behave. There's peace in that, not excitement, peace. And peace allows longevity. Longevity allows compounding. Compounding rewards patience. It all loops back to that one trait. Self-control isn't something you turn on once and keep forever. It's something you practice daily. Some days it's easy, some days it feels heavy. But every time you choose it, you strengthen it. And eventually, you don't have to think about it anymore. It becomes who you are. You become the trader who doesn't chase, the trader who doesn't panic, the trader who doesn't implode after a rough day. Not because you're emotionless, but because you're disciplined. That's the difference. And when you reach this point, the market stops feeling intimidating. Not because it's less dangerous, but because you're more prepared. You respect it. You respect yourself. And that mutual respect keeps you alive in the game. You don't need perfection. You don't need to win every day. You don't need to catch every move. You just need to keep your behavior clean day after day, week after week, year after year. That's the long road. And you're already walking it quietly, steadily, intentionally. And as long as you keep choosing self-control over impulse, you'll keep becoming the kind of trader who lasts. Not flashy, not reckless, not lucky, just solid. And solid is unstoppable over time. And when you really understand that, something settles inside you. You stop chasing certainty. Most people are desperate to know what will happen next. They want guarantees. They want reassurance before they act. They want to feel safe first, then be disciplined. But the order is wrong. Safety comes after discipline, not before it. You finally accept that uncertainty is permanent here. It's not a phase you outgrow, it's the environment. And instead of resisting it, you build yourself to function inside it. That's maturity. You stop asking the market to make you feel secure. You become secure in how you operate. You know your limits. You know your rules. You know when to step in and when to step away. That knowledge creates calm even when outcomes are unclear. This is where many traders misunderstand confidence. Confidence isn't believing you'll win. Confidence is knowing you'll be okay even if you lose. That kind of confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just shows up and does the work. You don't wake up thinking, I hope today is a big day. You wake up thinking, I'll execute cleanly today. And if nothing happens, that's fine. If you take a loss, that's fine. If you take a win, that's fine. Because none of those things shake your identity anymore. You are no longer outcome driven. You're process driven. And that is the final transformation. When you were starting, you needed excitement to stay engaged. Now you value predictability. You value routine. You value the boring repetition of doing things right. That tells you how far you've come. You've learned that discipline isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. Freedom from emotional swings, freedom from desperation, freedom from the constant mental noise that used to drain you. You're not trying to escape your life through trading anymore. You're integrating trading into a balanced life. That's how longevity is built. Years from now, when others are gone, burnt out, or telling stories about what used to work, you're still here, still steady, still controlled, still respecting risk, still compounding quietly, not because you found a secret, but because you built a trait, the one trait that all profitable traders share: the ability to pause when others rush, the ability to wait when others chase, the ability to protect when others gamble. Self-control. It's not flashy, it won't get attention, but it will keep you alive in this game long enough for time to reward you. And the longer you walk this road, the clearer it becomes. Trading didn't just teach you how to manage money, it taught you how to manage yourself. And that skill will outlast any market condition. As long as you keep choosing discipline over impulse, patience over urgency, and consistency over excitement, you'll keep becoming stronger, calmer, and more reliable. Not just as a trader, but as a person who can be trusted with growth. And that's the real edge.